Did you call the feds on Jen? What's your reaction to that?
Andy, haven't you heard me tell everyone not to come after my family?
Now, what did she just say? Listen, in my mind, when I first heard this, I was like, okay, she's joking, and she's kind of giving me some Lisa Vanderpump vibes right here. I mean, Meredith on Watch What Happens Live last night gave me the whole LVP look, and then that little remark right there when Andy asked that question, baby, let me tell you, she definitely was serving up LVP vibes. But was she serious? Let's discuss right after this. What's up, y'all? It's your boy DJ Richie Skye. We are back with Up and Adam here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 2, Episode 2, An Icy Apology. But I think we need to start off with a discussion about who is the real ice queen of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Adam, thoughts?
Oh, so that clip, I love that clip. I think she was being shady, and we all know, listen, right? We've talked to Emily D. Baker and a few other legal commentators, and we know the feds have been looking into Jen Shaw for so long, but the fact that she even gave us that, knowing everything Jen's going through, I'm like, Meredith, I might be a Meredith Stan account.
Let me tell you, it was so chilling. It was so, I don't know, it just made her that much more interesting to me because it kind of felt like she took a step on the dark side. Now, listen, I mean, here's the thing. If the allegations about Jen are true, I mean, that's the real dark thing. But I don't know, Meredith, you gave us something to think about.
I mean, look, Meredith has been saying the whole time, you came for my family, it's crossing a different line. She's giving us Teresa Giudice vibes. I'm not mad at her. I'm really not mad at her. I'm interested. I want to know more. I want to see more of this shadiness coming from Meredith because this is only her sophomore year on Housewives. So this is just going to continue to evolve. I'm here for it.
It's very interesting. This was actually the first time, and you mentioned it last week, really. This was kind of my first time noticing that whole LVP vibe from her. And I'm here for it, actually.
Yeah, no, she has this persona about her, and she's very stoic and she's calm, and she seems like, remember when Tom Girardi told LVP that she seems like a sniper from the side? I feel like that's the same, or maybe it wasn't Tom, but someone told LVP that. I feel like the same thing for Meredith. She's going to get her hands dirty, but you'll never see it. We're seeing the same thing from Giselle this season on Potomac. I can appreciate it. I appreciate the shade, and we can read between the lines. So
I gotta say this, and I talked about it in my last video. There was this moment of brilliance with Giselle and her casual messiness where Askale comes running over to tell them that, Mia's being messy, asking us if Chris is getting paid. And Giselle so casually says, is he?
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, I'd like to know.
She's always shady, and that's why we love her. She's a producer's dream. Meredith, I think she's taking notes from other people. And Jason, my fiance, has said this multiple times when watching the show. I feel like these women came on the first season trying to be caricatures of other Real Housewives that they've seen before. So it's almost like they're doing their homework. And I feel like Meredith Marks has taken a little bit out of LVP's book. Jen Shaw, she likes to be the erratic one who is always having drama surround her. But then she's like, oh no, I'm a victim. We get it from each one. Whitney likes to be the party girl. I'm seeing it play out. Again, I'm not mad.
I'm not mad at it either. No. But are we mad at this episode or not? How do we feel about it? So for those of you guys who regularly watch the channel, we typically rate the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. And so what we also offer is the opportunity for you to chime in the chatterization. What would you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10? We are just starting with the season of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Adam, have you had a moment to process this episode and determine what you're going to give this week's episode rating? Listen, yes. Adam holds nothing back. Tell us why. Tell us why.
I'm giving it a 5 because you taught me a new term last week, which was the cold open. And that was everything for us because we didn't have to wait. They let in with it. And I thought it was exciting to catch up with the women and see what's going on, but this week's episode, I understand it's a buildup and Heather's relationship with Jen and Meredith and this Twitter feud. None of this is the real storyline that everyone's waiting for. So unfortunately, until we get there, and I hope like the way that producers did it with Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, we didn't have to wait too long. I hope they don't make us wait too long for Salt Lake City because we don't care about Mary Cosby resurfacing her fireplace. You know what I mean? We need the good. Where is it? It wasn't this episode, but I'm still here and I'm hopeful because I love these ladies.
So I'm actually going to give it a 7. A little bit more generous, just a wee bit more generous. And I think the reason I'm going to give it that is because I did feel like we got I think adding Meredith's comment from Watch What Happens Live, which I actually saw first, and then sort of watching her going back and then having to watch the episode second because I had to do it out of order because I was traveling. Then watching her sort of get fired up at Seth coming in with the Christian Cowan mask on. I liked that. I also feel like we're getting a buildup of, hey, I'm Jen Shah. Come and look in my closet and look at all the things I have. Stu, walk on your hands and knees into this ice cave. And I feel like what they're doing is they're illustrating slowly, the over-the-top lavishness that Jen Shah presents in tandem with this notion that Stu is literally someone who she will get to crawl on his hands and knees inside of an ice cave and slip and fall and all. Listen, the poor man's back. The poor man's back. You know what I'm saying? It must be hurting not only from that fall, but from carrying Jen Shah and her load of whatever she's got going on. So to me, I'm here for this buildup. Now, I don't want to wait 2 months.
Right.
Okay. I don't want to wait 2 months. Like the Erica Jane stuff, it was episode 4 and we were off and running. So I agree with you there. Don't wait for too long.
When it came to watching this, it's so funny how shady the Bravo producers are and the editors, because they know exactly what they're doing. They did the same thing with Erica. We got a few more peeks this season into her closet, and it's almost like they're taking inventory, and they realize there's so many attorneys out there who are like, oh, Chanel bag, Hermes crocodile Birkin. Like they're sticking a price tag to these items. And we just did the same thing with Jen Shah. Again, I know I reference her a lot, but talking with Emily D. Baker, she even said Stuart Smith is now taking a plea deal. And if you watch the episode back, it's going to be easy for his defense team to show, look at season 1, look at this episode. She says jump and he says how high. It's easy to kind of paint this picture for him to be like, listen, she's the mastermind. I just do what she tells me. And this kind of helped him out a little bit. I don't know. Listen, I'm not the Southern District of New York or the prosecutors, but I'm looking at it from what she's saying as a legal commentator and a former prosecutor. And I'm like, oh, I see what you're saying. And this, for him, he was probably watching it like, yes, bravo, yes.
And I wanted to also say this too. Over here, we love to hype up other people's channels and, shout out other creators and stuff like that. And Emily is just, oh my God, just awesome. I always feel like when I'm listening to her, I want to just grab a blanket, grab a mug of hot tea and just like sit in and just relax on the couch and get cozy because she's going to break it all down for you guys. So make sure you check her out as well. Okay. Let's talk about the episode, shall we? The first thing that we get is our little montage, which we, come to expect from our Bravo shows. And I did feel like the montage was kind of a tease for what was to come in the episode with, Whitney sort of being extra busy and stressed out about whether or not the kid was going to have to walk himself home from school, to Mary going into her son's room and, going into his own refrigerator. He had a refrigerator in his room. I was like, and it wasn't like a college dorm. It wasn't that college dorm refrigerator. It was a huge one.
Yes.
So we kind of got those little tidbits of what each of those women's scenes would kind of be about. But did you learn anything new in the beginning parts of this episode?
No, I feel like, there's a couple things here. I'm loving seeing Whitney as more of a mother, a wife, and a businesswoman, and not necessarily seeing that very dark side of addiction and her battling that with her father. It's nice to kind of see this is a little bit more cotton candy, right? And we need to switch it up a little bit. For Mary Cosby, I say this every week. I do, guys. I try, and I get ripped apart in the comments. I am trying to like her, but even watching the way she treats her family, and she's like, he is the worst contractor. Get down there and compare those different marbles on that fireplace. I'm like, is this how you treat your family? This is how you treat people who help and work for you? Who's paying for this? The congregation? Every single episode, I am trying. DJRichieSkye, I am trying so hard, and I can't get there. I feel like I'm on the episode of like The Bachelor where they say, listen, I've tried, we've been on multiple dates, and we're not getting there. I have stronger relationships with the other women. And that's how I feel. So sorry.
Listen, we're going to work on it. Okay. We're going to work on it. Okay. So we're going to get to Mary in just one second. Jen, we see in the beginning of the episode, has Stu and her nephew, what's his name? His name is Dwayne, in the closet going through all of her stuff. I don't know what they're doing in there, but it definitely is probably not going to help her case any little bit at all. And the closet is fabulous, but I don't know how those clothes got there. Anyway, we get into this idea that Dwayne, her nephew, is basically, he was, I guess, from LA, and his family was in trouble. He had called Jen for help. She ignored the call, and now she's brought them to live with her at the new Shaw Chalet, okay? And she's helping to take care of his family, which is also very interesting. And I want to know exactly where that leads in the future as well, because I'm like, we have not seen this guy at all before. Maybe she hadn't talked to him before last season, and that was when she was ignoring him. And maybe in between season 1 and season 2 is when they came to live there. I really don't know, but this is the first we've seen of him. And we also get Jen calling Heather, who is like, and then she didn't just call her, she FaceTimes her. So she got to see her face when she answers the phone. And she asks her, hey girl, I missed you. I want to talk to you. You want to talk? And Heather's like, okay. Thoughts?
Oh my gosh. Well, they're swirling in my mind right now. One, I hope that by bringing the family to live with, Jen and Coach Shaw and her kids, I hope that they don't get kind of sucked into all of this legal drama, because that would be unfortunate to go from one unfortunate situation to another. It's nice to see her helping her family, if that's in fact what's going on. We've heard BS storylines before on Real Housewives, but okay, I'm here for it. It's good to see that, they're in a different situation and they're not struggling the same way. I like that. FaceTiming Heather Gay, the audacity. And I say that because, listen, living in Florida, this, you lived here. We see and we love our manatees here. There's signs everywhere that says, do not touch, harass, or anything else with them. We get it. They're beautiful little sea cows. But being compared to a sea cow is not cute. Not only a sea cow, but an ogre in Shrek. Jen Shaw, you can do better. Okay? I would not be your friend after that. And she called her a racist.
That's the part for me. I mean, listen, I wouldn't do well with one of my friends calling me a manatee either. But you just dug your own grave with me if you call me a racist, because I just kind of feel like, that's a term that if Heather was so inclined, she could have sued her for that. Right.
And that, I've said this before, that carries so much weight. Like, on Beverly Hills with Dorit calling Garcelle a bully or Jen Shaw calling Heather a racist. You don't know the impact that these shows have. If Heather is walking down the street in Park City and she has her daughter with her and she comes across someone who might feel very strong about this and believe it, who's to say that they're not going to chuck something, some foreign substance on Heather Gay or slap her in the mouth? You don't know, because some people, they really believe what's coming out of somebody else's mouth before they have the full facts. And I think that that is such an intense label. Unless you have some receipts or there's any merit to it, on this one, I'm going to have to say keep your mouth shut, because that's a big deal, especially in today's climate and in general. You should never be labeled as that unless that is actually who you are. And if you are that, then get off of our platform, because you don't deserve to be a housewife.
Mm-hmm. I agree totally. Okay. Now, Meredith is at home with Seth. Well, she's on the phone with Brooks. Okay. Speaking of the other stuff that's going on with Jen Shaw. She's on the phone with Brooks. Seth comes in with the Kristen Cowan mask on. We learned that Seth is now not in Ohio. He's now in Mississippi. And Meredith is like, I'm so glad I didn't move with him to Ohio, because I don't have time to be running around this country every other weekend like that. But we also learned that Jen Shaw is apparently still liking, or allegedly still liking, tweets, okay, that are pretty much calling Brooks, a twink, and other sort of homophobic comments. I'll say that. She even pulls up the receipts to show Seth, and Seth is like, well, maybe it's all a misunderstanding. And she's like, ow, houseway. In my mind, and in my notes, what I wrote down is Jen is too old to be on the Twitter like this. To me, she is. Why? Why?
I think Jen Shaw, unfortunately, there are different sorts of personalities, and when they come into fame, they deal with it different. I feel like Jen Shaw is one of those prime examples of a person who will take the fame, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If it makes her look bad, but you're talking about her, she's good. If it's good, you're talking about her, she's good. So either way, she's happy with it. I think the tweets are disgusting. I understand we have to say allegedly, but like Meredith Mark said on Watch What Happens Live last night, you are responsible for your account. It's the same thing like Sutton was saying on Beverly Hills. If the IRS accidentally dumps $50,000 into your account and you spend it, guess whose account that came from? Your account. You spent it, you're responsible. Same thing with Twitter. If it's coming from your blue verified checkmark.
Exactly. People are paying attention to it because you are on a show now. So you liking a tweet, you retweeting something, it is very similar to you saying it, or that people will think that you agree with it.
Yes.
And you're highlighting that. And yep. I think that, and it's not that I think she's too old to be using Twitter. I think she's too old to be using it in this way.
I agree. I think, listen, and this isn't, the first time that we've seen this with a housewife. We've seen a lot of messy housewives on Twitter. Erica Girardi is constantly trolling people on Twitter, and mind you, they're trolling her too. Jen Shaw, for this, it kind of cleared things up for me Watch What Happens Live last night, because I didn't realize, and there are things obviously we don't get to see that are behind the scenes. I didn't know Jen's assistant, well, both assistants, told her numerous times, listen, girl, you're not wearing any underwear and your hoo-ha is out, okay? I didn't know that was happening. So if they said it multiple times and then finally Brooks is like, that makes me uncomfortable, I can't say if my mom had her friend come over and she just went, woo, mention it all, and just kind of showed it all, I would not be the most comfortable. I would be like, Mom, get your friend, because she's giving me like Rachel strip club vibes right now, and I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah, I mean, again, here's the thing. I think that there's one thing with him saying that he felt uncomfortable seeing it, because I feel like most people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe that I showed that. You know what I'm saying? I'm so sorry. That sort of thing. But to sort of double down on this idea that he said something, and this leads into the scene that we get with Lisa and Jenny stopping by Jen's house so that Lisa could introduce Jenny and Jen to each other, and they kind of hit it off, and they get into the whole discussion about Meredith. And, Lisa basically tells her that she wants an apology. And Jen is like, well, he said something derogatory about seeing my kitty cat. And it's like, no, he said it made him uncomfortable. There's a difference.
And I agree with that. Does Brooks have some fault here? Yes, absolutely. One of them was probably being one of the worst bartender guests on Watch What Happens Live. And you can say that because technically you were one too. And you weren't bad. You were great. So being on there, I was hoping for more from him in that. And I know that we're not talking about that, but he's still at fault in some capacity here because he engaged in it. And I'm sure that he got a good laugh out of it. But at the end of the day, he's not a housewife. You're not contractually obligated. And Jen Shah, she needs to look at this with a different set of lens. Like, how would I like it if, any of these women were doing that to me and talking about my kids? Because when Mary Cosby said, I'm not comfortable going, outside of a 7-Eleven because of X, Y, and Z, Jen Shah referenced her kids and said, that makes me upset because you're talking about like that still associated with my family. So she was upset about that. And I understand they're two totally different things. But the point is, when you go after a housewife or any person's kids, they're a mama bear. So Meredith, rightfully so, is going to be upset.
And I do agree with you on that point about, the moment he started, I think it's one thing to be on the show because that's her son. But I think the moment that you start having a confessional is when people start feeling like they have more of a license to say and critique and talk about and whatnot, because you do put yourself to be out there on a public platform for people to say whatever they want to say, right? Mm-hmm. But you would just think that a cast member would have enough decorum to not actually retweet and like some of those comments that are being made. That's how I feel about it.
Right. And if you're going to like tweets, I mean, there are so many other things that I feel like people could have said, like tweets that are dissing his tracksuit. You know what I mean? Like, make it light shade. But when you start getting into alleged homophobic tweets, you're not teetering a line, you're crossing a line. And that's where you kind of lose the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Have you seen Brooks like one tweet about any of this hashtag free Jen Shah or hashtag Shah Fraught? I mean, I haven't. I feel like we would have heard about it.
To me, it's just about being smart. Like, again, I tell people all the time, I say it on the channel all the time, as entertaining as it is for us to watch a Twitter beef, they don't pay. So why are you working for free outside of the hours that you're supposed to be filming? I don't get it. It does not make any sense to me. And I feel like people that do that are chasing fame.
That's what I meant when I said the fame, she's happy with it, the good, the bad, whatever. If you're talking about her, she's good. So I really believe that. I think even seeing, the trailer and her talking to one of the attorneys and he's like, the U.S. Attorney's Office is no joke. And she's like, can we hire Kim Kardashian? This is bad publicity. This is not a moment to be cute, funny, quirky, haha. Because again, the prosecutor's looking at you like, oh, you got jokes? I'll give you a joke.
You don't realize how serious this is? Like, yeah. It's just baffling to me. We got a super chat here, though, from Quatia Robertson, who says Jen was calling Mary all kinds of things when she talked about her aunt. How she doesn't feel wrong is beyond me. Thank you for that super chat. We appreciate it over here. So let's move right on along. We got Whitney and Heather going shopping, and Heather basically uses this time to relay that she is going to go meet up with Jen. And Whitney is like, girl, why? Why would you do that? Okay. You're just going to be, I picked you up off the floor last year and now you're running right back to this girl. Explain.
Did you see her eye roll?
Yes.
Heather's like
many eye rolls.
Yeah. She's like, well, okay, you're going a little far with that.
Thoughts?
I mean, I agree with Whitney. They're family. They're not just friends. They're cousins, right? I don't know how strong that relationship was before the show, but at the end of the day, they're still family. And we saw a couple of scenes from last season, even during the Vegas trip, when the psychic said, who here does not trust Heather? And Jen Shah was the first one to raise her hand. Nobody else did. And Heather has been nothing from what we've seen, unless we're missing something, but a good friend to Jen Shah. Sure, does she call her on her her bull? Yes, but I'm that kind of friend too. If you are out here being completely crappy to everyone else, I'm going to be like, hey, let's have a conversation. You're acting a little crazy right now. And I feel like you would do the same thing. You would call somebody on their mess because that's what being a friend is. But when you take it to the next level and you start, again, labeling somebody with these intense labels, I see where Whitney was coming from with, are you sure you want to go back into this? You're, tread lightly.
What did you think? And I think that you may have an interesting perspective on this, and it is up to you how transparent you would like to be in your response to this. But, as just a person who is in a relationship, and anybody who is in the chat who is in a relationship can probably attest, we get an interesting scene with Whitney and her husband about specifically, again, we get this notion that Whitney is really getting into her business at this point. We learned that she's really stepping up in terms of how much she's making per month, and she wants it to be $1 billion business. And again, it goes back to the point that you were saying earlier, how we wanted to see more of her business side. But this business is also affecting her family and her sexual time with her husband. Okay. So it seems that now they have gone from having from doing it every day, okay, to doing it only 2 to 3 times a week, which is just a no for her. It's horrible. It's horrible. How dare they? And so now she's explaining to him how she doesn't want to resent him because she's having to do most of the chores around the house, and then B, how she doesn't want to have robo-sex anymore.
Okay. So are you asking, as a person who is in a relationship, what do I think about this balance?
What did you think about the conversation? Do you agree with how they had it? And what did you think about the 2 to 3 times versus the everyday?
Listen, I think everybody's preference is different, obviously. I think this requires a healthy balance. We all know this. I mean, even you and I on here as content creators, like, we're busy. I don't know about you, but sometimes Jason has to remind me when we go out to dinner, get off your phone. I'm constantly checking like analytics and comments and answering things and answering emails. And sometimes I don't know when to put it down. So it affects my relationship, and I have to learn to listen. And the important part here that I think we can appreciate is Whitney is not ignoring this conversation. She's laying it out on the table and having the conversation because she doesn't want this to go too far left to where she can't control it anymore. So I applaud her for that, because sometimes these conversations are difficult to have. I am one of the first people, again, when Jason says something to me about get off YouTube, I'm like, I'm working and I don't need to hear that. So I'll close the door and lock it. And then an hour later, I'll come back out and I'm like, oh, I should have been nicer about that. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's communication, and sometimes communication is hard.
Honestly, I loved this conversation. It was probably one of my favorites that I've seen from them, or just in a while on a reality TV show, because it's so real. And I thought that you could even almost tell in her voice that it was kind of like a brave moment for her to have, because I felt like to sort of explore this notion that, their sex life isn't what she would want it to be, because everybody typically, I don't care who you are, you typically want people to think or believe that that your sex life and your relationship is always great. And that's not always the case, especially if you have two people who are very, very busy. So for me personally, I got it, girl. I'm like, listen, sometimes you just don't feel like it, okay? You just don't feel like it. So it's just not going to be possible today. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I'm busy. I'm working. You're stressed. I'm stressed. But at the end of the day, it is really about having those conversations that makes a relationship great. And when you can open up and start to share those moments with each other, much less, okay, an audience of people who are going to judge or who are going to relate, I think that takes guts. And that's why it was so interesting and fascinating to me. And I was just like, wow, I really respect her for having that conversation. And I respect him as well for not getting angry or upset or anything like that. But he did remind her, and I thought that this was so cool at the end, how simple of a fix that is.
Right. And, I saw somebody in the chat just said, how embarrassing is it for her husband, though, airing their sex life or lack thereof? Hi, Susie Gross. I get that. But again, these are hard conversations. And mind you, a lot of people who watch these shows, whether it's one of the housewives dealing with addiction, sobriety, mental health issues, or their personal relationships, there are people out here who are watching this like, oh, I have that same problem. So maybe I should have that conversation. So I applaud it. And it's a very real conversation. This is a conversation many couples have. So the fact that they did it on camera, Whitney, I'm here for you.
Amen to that. I absolutely loved it. And it was one of the things that I was most excited to talk about because I'm always so fascinated by relationships and stuff and marriages and stuff like that. So that to me was an interesting aspect that I'm glad that they highlighted. We get, one more thing, Jenny, real quick. We learn and we sort of get the beginning of this conversation that her husband wants more kids. I don't really have much more to say about that other than I feel like that's going to become more of an issue next week.
I agree with that. That sounds like a difficult conversation. And again, this is my own personal, Jason's going to kill me, but this is my own personal relationship. Sometimes Jason and I have this conversation of kids. And for me, I think I would be the worst dad ever because I'm not a kid person. When they pull on you, when I get around my nieces and nephews, I'm good for 30 minutes. And I'm like, all right, go back to your parents. And Jason's like, I really want to be a dad, So I felt it. I felt the conversation because I am Jenny and Jason is her husband. And he's like, I want kids. And I'm like, from who? From where? Where are you getting them? Or when do you get them back? You want the nephews, nieces? Well, you want to babysit for the night? I'll go. I have points. I'll get a hotel room. Sorry.
Our sort of joke is that, we both want them, but I want the nanny or the, that comes with the baby. Because I feel like, listen, it's going to need to be some help around here. And I'm the one who's really home every day. So what would that mean? I would be with the kid all the time. Yeah. I don't know if I could do it. And I'm really being real at this moment because I feel like there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, I don't want to offend anybody that, does have kids, but I'm just admitting that I feel like it's hard work.
No, I actually applaud and appreciate those who do have kids. Like I have between step and half 11 brothers and sisters. I know seeing what kind of toll that took on my parents. My mom was working 3 jobs at one time. My dad works his tail off, I appreciate how much they put into it. I'm just saying personally, I agree with you. Jason, you want a kid, if you're listening, you better have a nanny that comes with it, especially if we're adopting or if we're having one of our own. That's going to cost a good $50,000 to $100,000 because we're in that sort of relationship. So you better tack on an extra $50,000 of that and hire Melissa. I'll call her Melissa.
Okay. I am 100% behind you with that. Melissa, if you're out there, you're needed. Okay.
Yes. Calling all Melissas.
We get Jen and Heather going to the ice castles to have their conversation, their Ponderosa, if you will. And so what we see here is Jen has brought Stu with her to be her sort of escort into the ice caves or castles or whatever they're called. Personally, this is what I thought. I thought that this was going to be a place like an ice bar where you go inside, you have to wear your coat and everything, and it's freezing cold, and you're going to have shots of whatever they're serving you, okay? Or whatever kind of frozen drinks they got up in there. I've never been to one, but I've always wanted to go. So I would imagine to my dismay when I'm watching this episode and I see it's just a bunch of caves and a slide and stuff like that. But Heather, for some reason, is wowed by this, okay? And so now all of a sudden she's being reeled back into the Jen Shah magic show for which Stu is clearly falling for, literally, because Jen is trying to get him to actually, I think he was trying to walk up a slide, and she said, well, get on your hands and knees. Sure enough, he tries and he falls. So we get into the conversation. Jen and Heather begin to hash it out. Any points that you felt like were you either disagreed with or you really agreed with. I didn't want to go too far into describing it because I also want you to be able to touch on things that maybe were of interest to you.
Yeah, I have a few questions here. One, I hope that place makes everyone sign a waiver so no one sues them for walking in there, because that just looks like a huge liability. Two, you called it a magic show, and that's exactly what we're getting with all the glitz and the glam, because we know at this point it's allegedly not, what it's portrayed to be. And for the conversation with Heather and Jen, poor Heather, like, she just smiles, she's happy, she sees her, and in my mind, she like blocks out all of the negative, and she's trying to like stand her ground, but she's like, oh, that's my friend, we've had so many good moments. So she's very gullible and also vulnerable. Now, when they're talking about what's going on back and forth, I feel like Jen Shah was gaslighting Heather by saying, or even deflecting by saying, why are you believing other people? And Heather's like, no, girl, this is your blue verified check mark. She's like, I took that down after a couple of hours. Okay, but you still put it up. You have a very public platform. Hundreds of thousands of followers on all of your social media platforms. Yes, this is still a big deal. And for Heather, she caved way too soon. She knew she was going to cave, though. I don't understand. Again, going back to Meredith Marks on Watch What Happens Live, she doesn't understand their relationship, and neither do I.
I definitely don't understand it. And I really don't get, I can't imagine the idea of being so mesmerized by someone that they could call me a racist or any other derogatory animalistic term on social media or anywhere otherwise, and then expect me to just be friends with them. And then for them to, then for me to feel sorry for them. Okay. Because what I didn't like that she did was she also said, well, I'm different and I get treated differently because I am the brown person in this group. And it just frustrated me because you cannot then use that as a way to point out how people are treating you differently, because it is you who are a mess on social media at the age of 40 something or whatever age she is. Why? I don't really understand it. And so the interesting thing that I thought that Heather said was this. She said that she feels like Jen is treated differently because of her temper and not the color of her skin. She also feels like Jen is treated better because of her temper, because everyone is walking on eggshells to make sure that they don't set that temper off.
Right.
She hit the nail on the head, but I just feel like in the next breath, she's like, but are you breaking up with me, Jen? What?
Yeah. I think that I was reading a lot of fan comments last night, and some people were like, I'm so sick of Jen playing this card. And I hate that it's even referred to like this, because I don't think that's a card that someone plays. I feel like everyone walks kind of in their own life and they have their own things that they go through. And I don't want to take away from anyone else's experience or how they've been treated in life. But for Jen Shah, I don't necessarily think this is a person of color situation. I agree. I think it's her outbursts, her temper, how she lashes out at people, and then she victimizes herself. And she's like, why is everyone always making me apologize? Why is everyone always coming at Jen Shah? I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, you are your own worst nightmare. You are your own problem, because people want to like you. You just are continuously apologizing and then redoing really crappy things. And then you have to apologize again. So if you're wondering why you have to keep re-apologizing, that's a question for yourself, not for any of the other cast members.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's harmful to conflate issues, right? So if you're conflating an issue of you feeling in your past, ostracized because of the color of your skin, that is one thing. But you cannot conflate that, because that's an issue that's real. But you can't conflate that with this idea that you are taking actions that are irresponsible socially, especially towards your cast members, and putting those things together. You're not treated differently because of that. At least in my eyes, by this group, it's that you are being treated that way because they're responding to what you're doing to them.
Right. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. It's not, this is getting Jen Shah's reactions. They're starting to get old for me. They got old for you very fast. You said, and we said this last week, last season, you're like, I can't do every single episode with the Jen Shah outburst, but that's what we get. And do I think that that's who she is to the core? No, I think that those are things, and now we're learning more. She's feeling and lashing out, and she's redirecting this energy where it shouldn't be. But I think it's because of her at-home marriage, the situation that's going on, knowing that some former employees or people that she allegedly worked with in this fraud ring were being indicted. This has been going on since, I believe, 2012. So knowing that's all stewing out there, knowing, everything that's probably coming her way, this wasn't a big shock, right? She knew other people were being investigated. Again, going back to my conversation with Emily said that at one point she had to appear and they told her, this is not good business. These are not good business practices. So what she allegedly did was went around and figured out how to do the same business practices, allegedly, but do it in a different way. That way she could fly under the radar. So you have to know that you're carrying all this weight of these things that shouldn't be done, you shouldn't be doing, and what's going on with your home life. This is a lot. No wonder why she's lashing out. I would be lashing out.
Wow.
But these are Jen Shah problems. Again, this is not a Heather Gay problem. It's not a Meredith Marks problem, but it helps me understand more as things come out as to why she is so highly reactive.
It'll be interesting to see how the season continues because, she's still somewhat having these little mini breakdowns, in the episodes as we kind of witnessed today. I mean, her temper was starting to get set off when she was talking to Lisa, and it started to go there when it was with Heather and she had a little breakdown moment and Heather's just kind of looking. Everyone's just kind of looking like, what do we do? There was one moment where I wrote this down where Jen is talking to Lisa and Jenny and she says something to the effect of, is it wrong? Or I forgot what she said. Oh my God. She was asking about Brooks talking disparagingly about her kitty cat.
Right.
And she's asking a question and she's like, there's nothing wrong with liking those posts. Is that wrong? And Lisa and Jenny are just looking at her and I'm like, you guys are supposed to tell her, yes, that is wrong.
But that's what Heather's talking about. Because she is so reactive, everyone, she gets a pass because she did already in the second episode. We have 2 moments where she is highly reactive, right? So people don't want to, honestly, if I just wouldn't even have a friend like that. If I have a friend who I'm trying to say, listen, this is why our other friend feels this way. And then they start getting abrupt. I'm like, you can keep that. I don't need that energy. I have enough of that energy. Keep that over there. If I have to tell you as an adult why this isn't cute or why it's wrong, maybe you're not the friend for me. I understand they all have to film together, but Jen Shah, again, is her own worst enemy. She is the villain in her own story.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Any predictions for next week?
No, I think when it comes down to it, I understand we have these little tidbit storylines coming down, but like we said at the beginning of this, we got Erica Girardi's legal drama and everything going on with her husband during, I believe it was episode 4. I'm okay with having another episode where we're not there yet and we get to know Jenny. I'm loving Jenny so far as one of the new housewives. I think she's a great fit. I hope that continues. I just want to get to that place where we're starting to see the story unfold and we're seeing how she's reacting to being indicted, how she's reacting to the arrest, and what the women have to say about it, and the questions that they ask her. Because from what we're hearing, there were a lot of conversations with Jen about her arrest with the other women. She went there, even though her defense team, they were like, stay off of social media, stop filming. She decided, nope. I'm going to continue on social media and I'm going to continue filming. So she went there with these conversations. I just want to see them.
Good point. I don't want to wait 4 more episodes either, because I feel like don't give me till the mid-season, even though I know it happened 2 months after they started filming. I need this. It needs to come up soon.
Yeah,
Don't
speed up
wait.
because you guys got a 5 this week from me, not a 7.
We got a super chat from California Cutie who says, I really love when you two get together. Thanks for the great chatterization. And thank you as well. Adam, tell everybody where they can find you until next week.
Yeah, so guys, you can find me on my channel, Up and Adam. So we do daily hot topics and also mostly anything Bravo. I feel like I just live for Bravo because I'm that crazy person that has it playing in my life at all times. And also, you know, I don't have to get into it, but Up and Adam on YouTube, that's it. And make sure if you guys are watching, DJ Richie Skye always says this, but smash that like button and don't forget to share this video. It helps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in to our conversation about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It is just starting to heat up, and we will definitely be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel, to discuss episode 3 for season 2. Adam, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you've got a lot going on, and it means a lot. So I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. And with that being said, guys, we did it under an hour.
Yeah. Look at that. 47 minutes.
I used to joke with Adam every episode that we did. I was like, okay, we're going to get it to 30 minutes. And I finally just came to the conclusion that it's never going to happen. So thank you, Adam, for your time. I really, really appreciate that.
But to be fair, I've always said too, I don't care. I'm here for the, if you say we're doing this, then I'm here. I'm all in. I'm not a fair weather friend. Okay.
You are not. And it is not Adam that is putting that time restriction on us. It is me thinking I need to let him get back to doing the things that he was already doing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I am just grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you guys showed up today, and we will catch you guys in the next video.